that lack of Gestalt. So, lack of Gestalt. Gestalt is a German word. The closest translation is whole, or pattern, or form. In other words, Gestalt is a holistic process. It regards the individual as a totality of mind, body, emotion and spirit. So that's quite a wordy description for Gestalt, isn't it? But that Gestalt, it means whole. It means feeling right. It means balance. It means equilibrium. Okay? And when that equilibrium is broke, stress occurs. Okay? So if I go back to the traffic jam example, the reason people get stressed is because you are expecting the traffic to be free flowing, and then it's not free flowing. You will now have a balance of the internal picture in your head versus the picture in the outside world. It causes lack of Gestalt, which generates stress from the hypothalamic part of your brain. The only problem is your brain still works in fight or flight mode like we were cavemen and women. So if you're walking across the road and there's a car coming at you and you need to get out the way, you go into a stress mode, your body releases adrenaline into the system so you can move and get out of the way. Very, very useful. Tick a box. If you're sitting in a traffic jam, not so useful, because that adrenaline's got nowhere to go in your system, and the brain doesn't understand the difference between fear and danger. Doesn't understand the difference between the two. It's quite an important point, this is. You know, so if you're in danger, you get a shot of adrenaline into your system. If you're in fear, you get a shot of adrenaline into your system. So, public speaking, doing presentations, things like this that I'm doing now. Third biggest fear in the Western world, public speaking. Third biggest fear in the Western world, okay? Just checking numbers, that's all right. Death was 7th on the list, so you work that out. People would rather die than do public speaking. I'm not quite sure that's the case. But the point is this: if you ask 7, 8 out of 10 people, if you get them into a training room and then go, right, at the end of the day, you're all going to be doing presentations, right? You should see the look of fear on their faces. Now, the point is, the brain doesn't then sense fear, it senses danger. And it puts you into a stress mode at that point, because now the internal picture in your head does not match the outside world. It's like being put on the spot in a meeting, for instance, when you haven't got the information, yeah? Or doing a job that you aren't qualified to do, or doing a job that you haven't done before, or whatever it is, or picking up a spider. It doesn't really matter. The fact is, you get a shot of adrenaline into your system, but unlike moving out of the way of a car, you don't use the adrenaline. The adrenaline stays in your system. Now, adrenaline is one of the best drugs that we can have when we need it. When we don't, it turns toxic in the system, causing more stress. It makes you feel worried, sick, stressed, depressed, angry, frustrated, upset, depressed. Whichever way it comes out in you, that's what stress causes in your body when you've got all of this stuff in your system and you're not releasing it in the way that you would in a fight or flight situation, okay? So, you know, I once had a gentleman in a room that said, you know, but when I'm stressed, nothing can seem to get me out of it. When I get stressed, you know, nothing can get me out of that feeling. So I said to him, go on a 5-mile run. And he kind of looked at me, and I went, because I'll guarantee you, you will feel less stressed. You will feel less stressed if you go on a 5-mile run. Now, he did look at me and go, 5-mile run will kill me, right? Now, the point I'm making here, if you're not a runner, right, is you haven't got to go on a 5-mile run. The point I'm making is one of the things that helps with stress, which is one of the top tips I'm going to give you, is physical exercise, because it physically removes the chemical, the stress chemical, the adrenaline in your system out. This is why you've heard me bang on over the last 6 or 7 months about make sure you're going out for a walk, make sure you're walking a dog, make sure you're doing this, make sure you're doing that, make sure you've got a hobby, because it releases stress chemical. It releases chemical, one of the best things. I've got 10 for you today, but that's one of the best ones, yeah, to do. So just bear that in mind. Your brain gets tricked sometimes. When we see stress, when we see something as human beings, it doesn't compute as danger or fear. It all computes as danger in our heads, because danger and fear are the same things. Yeah. This is why people like watching horror movies. Now, horror movies aren't real; they're all made up. Yeah. But people still get scared. Yeah, and feel, oh God, I'm still shaking. Yeah. The shaking, by the way, if you ever shake and you say you're nervous, that's not nerves. It's got nothing to do with the nerve endings in your body whatsoever when you're shaking. It's too much adrenaline in your system. It's got nowhere to go. So it makes you shake. So the reason I'm sharing all this with you is to go, this is all chemical within us. There are things that we can do in order to deal with those stress. Yeah? And nobody really makes us stressed. Nobody puts us under pressure. We put ourselves under pressure and we stress ourselves out from it. And you might be going, oh, I don't know about that, John. You know, my boss gives me deadlines that I need, you know, and I don't think they're achievable, and so on and so on and so on. That's fine, but whether that causes stress in you, they're not in charge of your chemicals. It's like letting somebody else walk through your mind with their dirty feet. Yeah, it's a choice that we make. Yeah, so yes, there are things we would rightly get stressed about. Yeah, fight or flight will kick in if your brain perceives any kind of danger or harm to you. So if you're working on a deadline and that deadline, you're getting stressed about it, yeah, then your brain's going, right, if we don't hit that deadline, there's going to be some pain. So then it goes into fight or flight, releases a load more adrenaline into your system, and if you're not dealt with in the right way, that adrenaline turns toxic in the system and makes you feel stressed, worried, sick, depressed, anxious, whichever way it comes out in the system, okay? And it's all because there is a lack of balance. There's a lack of the picture in your head versus the outside world. And this is the biggest cause of stress. When we look at the world and we go, shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't do it that way. Yeah, I drive myself mad with it. I'm a high red profile. As far as I'm concerned, the way that I do things, everybody should do them that way. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible thing to have. High reds have it more than most. You know, this is the way to do it. Why are you doing it that way? Why would you do it a different way? You should be doing it this way. Lack of pictures causes me stress. Don't cause them stress. Causes me stress, not anybody else. So what can we do in order to deal with our own stress?